Welcome back, everyone. Next up, we have Blue Sky Uranium Corp. It trades on the OTCQB under the symbol BKUCF and on the TSXV under the symbol BSK, and is a leader in uranium discovery in Argentina. The company's objective is to deliver exceptional returns to shareholders by rapidly advancing a portfolio of superficial uranium deposits into low-cost producers while respecting the environment, the communities, and the cultures in all the areas in which they work. Blue Sky has the exclusive right to properties in 2 provinces in Argentina. So today we have with us Nikolaos Cacos, the president and CEO. Mr. Cacos brings over 30 years of executive level management and advisory expertise in the mineral exploration industry, and he has worked with Grosso Group since inception and serves as a senior level executive for all the member companies. We also have Guillermo Pensado, the vice president of exploration and development. Mr. Pensado is a professional economic geologist with more than 25 years of expertise in the mineral exploration industry, with particular emphasis on uranium. He holds extensive experience in exploration and economic project assessment in Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Peru, USA, and Canada, mainly focused in uranium, precious metals, and copper deposits. And in the last decade, Mr. Pensado has worked in the startup of new projects and companies and has held positions from advisor to VP of exploration. Gentlemen, we're so happy to have you on the Emerging Growth Conference today. Welcome. Bienvenidos.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, everybody, for joining our presentation today. We'll be talking about Blue Sky Uranium, a uranium exploration company in Argentina, and we'll be talking about the very unique and extraordinary discovery that we have in Argentina of not just a new uranium deposit, but an entire new district, a district that has many similarities with some of the world's largest and lowest cost districts in the world. And of course, it also has the potential to rank amongst those giants. So we'll go through this presentation, and hopefully, my thesis here will be bear out. Oh, by the way, this is bring your attention to a disclaimer that we will be making some forward-looking statements, and so I do encourage you to read this. And by the way, not right now. This presentation is posted on a company's website, so you can. It's available for you to download and go through at your own pace and leisure. So, when we're looking at Blue Sky Uranium, we look at, first of all, what's as an investment highlight. Let's look. What about the uranium market, the backdrop in which we're operating? Well, what we've seen is the price of uranium has come from sub $20 a pound up to now is trading up to about $51 a pound, and so we're definitely in a bullish uranium cycle. We're seeing nuclear energy being used more and more and demanded more and more, and I'll have a little more to talk about that. And then the other backdrop that we're looking at is the fact that we're operating in Argentina. And I'm going to make the case that there is no better country in which to discover and develop a uranium deposit than in Argentina. And you'll see that there's a very unique business opportunity for Blue Sky in that country. The project itself, already is underpinned by a floor value, in that we have a deposit, the Vanna deposit, just under 23 million pounds of uranium and 11.5 million pounds of vanadium. This was what we published about 4 years ago in PEA. And while that itself is impressive, what's even more impressive is that this entire, besides the resource being open for expansion, this entire district is open for making multiple types of these discoveries over a scale of 145 kilometers, nearly 100 miles in length. So, like I said at the outset, this is a project that has the potential to be a world-class uranium district with some of the lowest quartile operating costs compared with some of the other global producers. Here we have a map of Argentina, and it shows where the Amarillo Grande project is situated in the province of Rio Negro. It's the large yellow blob in the central part there, northern part of Patagonia. And it is an enormous project. Its scale, there's over 300,000 hectares of property that Blue Sky controls, and that make up the Amarillo Grande. Of course, you can have a fantastic asset, but really what makes a company is how that asset is managed. And I'm proud to say that Blue Sky is managed as a member of the Grosso Group. Grosso Group is the management team behind Blue Sky, and Grosso Group of pioneers in mining in Argentina since the country liberalized its investment laws to allow foreign investment there back in 92, 93. We're one of the very first organizations to get involved then, 30 years ago, and we've had quite the track record. We've made 4 major discoveries, like you can see on here. Many of these are still in production right now, and our connections and our community relation aspect and it really sets us apart from a lot of our peers and gives us a true competitive advantage. More specifically with the company, our chairman is Joe Grosso, and besides being president and founder of Grosso Group Management, Joe Grosso has been inducted into Argentina's Mining Hall of Fame and has been actually won the award for Mining Man of the Year in Argentina. So a really well-known figure. He definitely brings a lot of contacts and connections for Blue Sky and opens up a lot of doors and really sets us apart from the competition. And the other person I'd like to really highlight here is Mr. Chuck Edwards here on the bottom right-hand side. Chuck is a mineral processing engineer and metallurgist, and he was the chief metallurgist for Cameco for many, many years. And he's the one that's been working on our metallurgical and process engineering work that he did for PEA and for any updates that we're doing. So very, very proud to have this caliber of people working for our team here. Stepping back and just adding a little more to the uranium market that I talked about at the opening. What we see here is a graph, a chart rather, showing the demand exceeding the supply. And anybody, economics 101 tells you when the demand exceeds supply, the one thing happens is the price goes up. And that's exactly what we've seen. We've seen the price of the uranium continuously to go up. And the reason for that is that with the drive today for safe, secure, reliable, and carbon-free energy, there is no other comparison to nuclear energy, not wind power, not solar energy, not anything. So there is an acceptance that nuclear energy to generate electricity is a requirement as part of baseload electricity. And this is what's driving the demand for uranium, and more nuclear reactors are being built globally. So while you can up the demand, the supply always takes time to come to fruition. So we're seeing price increases. And then the other slide here shows uranium. Where does it come from? Where is it produced? And what we can see is almost half of the world's uranium is produced in Kazakhstan. Now, the reason for that, it's the low-cost nature. In Kazakhstan, the mines in Kazakhstan are situated in geological environments that allow it to be produced and generated at very, very low cost. And this is a very important note, as will be Guillermo later on will be showing how the deposit and that we currently have very much compares to the kinds of deposits that they have in Kazakhstan. And just very briefly, how is uranium priced? Well, uranium isn't traded obviously on a stock exchange, but it really is an offtake. It's an agreement between a uranium mine and the nuclear reactor. They will typically make an agreement to purchase uranium over a period ranging from 3 to 15 years, and it's always a premium to what we see in the spot market. So spot market right now is just over $50, and the premium could be $65, $70. And the other point is about where the country in which we're operating in Argentina. Argentina, for many who may not be aware, is a nuclear country. It's Argentina is involved in every facet of the nuclear cycle, all except for production. They and in fact they have a long history. They're dealing with nuclear industry since the 50s, almost as long as the United States has. And besides having nuclear power plants in operation right there, there's particle accelerators, atomic centers. There's even a pilot enrichment plant that enriches fuel. So it's a very, very sophisticated and highly developed nuclear cycle. But because they don't produce any uranium to power all of these, they need to import their uranium. And this is where Blue Sky's Ivana deposit now, even at this early stage, ranks as the largest uranium deposit in Argentina and at the most advanced project. I think we're very well being set up to potentially be able to become Argentina's first domestic supplier. And with that, I'm going to turn over the floor to Guillermo. Guillermo?
Okay, Nico, thanks. Thanks everyone for coming and joining us today. As you can see, at this picture taken while drilling at Ivana deposit, you can see that we are in a desert area, flat area. It's a very good place to be exploring uranium because you can work year-round, the low-density population there, and a good place to be exploring uranium. And that's a very good point for this new district discovery by Blue Sky Uranium. This was a discovery back in 2006 in the northern portion of this new district, observing a uranium mineralization on surface. We will see picture after that about the mineralization. That mineralization led to an intensive exploration program, including airborne radiometric surveys, which immediately discovered another huge district few kilometers to the south, and it anomaly, more than 15 kilometers airborne radiometric anomaly, which was drilled, and we found some uranium there in the upper part of the surface. But we continue exploration because we were seeing more and more uranium along this trend, as Nico said, more than 140 kilometers trend, until we discovered the Ivana sector in the southernmost sector of this new district. And back in 2016-17, when we understood that we have this significant area with significant amount of uranium on surface, this could be the superficial expression of some blind bigger deposit. So we started drilling in 2017, and immediately we did a discovery and related with, as expected, to a bigger system, a sandstone type deposit, because this was the initial discovery in this huge district. And in those days, the uranium price was $20 per pound. We found that it was important to show that we have at least a minimum economic deposit and potentially exploited with very low operating costs. So we immediately went into a resource estimation. And after that, we went into a preliminary economic assessment, as Nico mentioned before, published it in February 2019. So as mentioned it also before, we are in the northern part of Patagonia. This is Rio Negro province, mining and oil and gas friendly province with good or very good experience in nuclear sector. The pilot enrichment uranium plant that Nico mentioned is in this province. They also have a research nuclear reactor. So they have very good experience dealing with the nuclear sector. It's a province with very good infrastructure. And as I mentioned before, it's a good place to be exploring uranium because it's desert. It's a huge depression. All these districts cover a depression where we are well below every water table, freshwater table in the province, so we are not competitor of any other sector. The geology or the mineralization itself, as you can see in the picture, in the upper picture, this yellow mineral is carnotite. It's a uranium vanadium mineral, typically found on surface as secondary mineral. And this is what was found all along this trend for more than 140 kilometers. As you can see at this sampling pit, all yellowish due to the presence of carnotite, very impressive. But as I mentioned also, this is the superficial expression of a xanthonite deposit, which is below that and is remobilized and expressed on surface as carnotite. This is very good for exploring, to have this mineralization near surface, but because it means very low exploration cost. For example, the Ivana deposit, as we will see, is located between 0 and 25-30 meters in depth. So when you are drilling, they are very short holes. And in a potential future production means that you don't need drilling, blasting, or crushing. So that is potentially very low operating cost. So the geology, the regional geology, as Nico also mentioned, we have many similarities to significant uranium districts around the world, like those in Colorado, or the one presented in this picture, the left picture, in Kazakhstan, where you can see that along huge regions, you can have different traps or conditions to generate uranium deposits. All the yellow stars there in the left picture represent production mines, and one of those include the Inca mine, which is the biggest, with more than 200 million pounds, with average grade as similar as the Ivana deposit, which is in the right picture, showing the Ivana deposit well to the south of our district, and all the other sectors are representing potential uranium deposit in areas where we know uranium mineralization on surface, and we are actually exploring. As I mentioned also, the first target was to define if we have a potential economic deposit. So we define rapidly resources, and we estimated these initial resources in almost 23 million pounds U3O8, grading 0.037% uranium, but also vanadium with 11.5 million pounds, which represent a good credit for the potential future production. This is a map of the Ivana deposit itself. As you can see, most of the mineralization is in the darkness zone in the central part of this arcuate corridor, and is still open for expansion. We recently drilling, trying to expand this deposit to the west, where we already had samples from pit samples showing more mineralization, uranium vanadium mineralization near surface to the west. And we were also drilling, trying to improve the category of the initial resource estimates for a potential future pre-feasibility stage. Once we defined that we could have a potential economic size or volume, we had to prove that this uranium could be recuperated and potentially at low operating cost. And this is where Chuck Edwards played a significant role, and he defined it with a specialist two-stage processing, including a first simple wet scrubbing and screening. That means that mineralization that you saw coating the pebbles, which is carnotite, is part of the material that you need to take from the pebble, but most of the mineralization is in the very fine material in a salty or partially salted sediment, sands and gravels. So you can separate the mineralization with simple screening, reducing your mass to a quarter, and that represents almost 4 times increment in your initial uranium and vanadium grade. With this pre-concentrate, you go to a second stage, and alkaline leaching processing was defined with no added oxidants or flotation required. So that means very low operating cost, but also a very low environmental impact technology, very well known. That means that you reduce your cost of containing that mineralization and processing, which give you an overall processing recovery of 85% for uranium and 53% for vanadium. Once we define it, that we had the volume and the chance to recuperate at potentially low cost, we had to define the type of potential production that we could have. And because I was talking about partially consolidated or salty sands or gravel, it was defining a quarry type mining modeling where you can take your material processing, and the idea is to backfill your pits with the processing material, so you can have all the zone remediated by the end of your operation. And this is a game because the mineralization is between 0 and 25, 30 meters in depth, means very low stripping ratio and very low operating cost. So once we got all those numbers, we went into a preliminary economic assessment, and Nico will summarize for you the numbers.
Thanks, Guillermo. So yeah, we did a preliminary economic assessment actually at a relatively early stage of our development of the Ivana deposit. And I think part of the reason for our investors here to understand is that the price, the uranium market environment that we were operating in at that time was sub $20 a pound. So we wanted to ensure that A, we have a deposit here that is potentially competitive and viable in that environment, and B, to get an idea, what would it cost to produce uranium, in a seemingly low-cost environment. So the two metrics that we really honed in on was, what are the pre-production capital costs? So what's the CapEx? What does it cost to put this whole operation potentially into production? And what the number is $100 million basically, plus a $28 million contingency. So that metric was important to us because it's not just the Ivana deposit. With our goal now of stepping out and exploring and trying to discover additional uranium deposits, we entertain the idea of having a centralized processing center so that the capital cost would remain relatively fixed. Now, the second metric here was the cash cost. What does it cost to take a pound of uranium out of the ground? And what we came up with is just over $16 a pound. And even if you include all the all-in sustaining costs, it comes to just over $18 a pound. Sure, these were really attractive-looking numbers, but really to put it into perspective, what we did is we plotted them in this chart here against producing uranium mines that are in production around the world. And we wanted to see if Ivana was in production, where would it rank? And you can see Ivana numbers here on the red bar there. And what we discovered is that if indeed Ivana was in production, its operational cost would rank amongst the first quartile, the lowest cost curve in the world. And that was quite a remarkable finding. And it's interesting to note that all the other mines that flank our deposit there, they're all these Kazakhstani mines. So definitely this has potential to be very, very competitive. So this, of course, emboldens us and tells us, okay, let's go on now and see if we could find additional uranium. So stepping back, and we're looking here at the outline of the Amarillo Grande project with the Ivana deposit at the southeastern corner there. What we did is we looked at and said, okay, what targets do we have? And we labeled the targets here for simplicity. And we decided that we would focus on targets 1 through 5 because that is a approximately 30-kilometer area radius from the Ivana deposit, so that any additional uranium we find, we could have a hub and spoke type operation and feed it into a centralized processing center. So we embarked on it. We went ahead and we did, here's the deposit again. We did a number of drill holes here with a twofold intention. Number one was to infill between some holes so that we can tighten up and potentially be able to improve the quality of the resource that we report from inferred to indicated. And we also stepped out from the deposit, as you can see some of these holes here. And we wanted to see, well, does this deposit have potential for expansion? And we're really pleased to see that we were successful on both accounts. You could see the step out holes, some of the larger numbers there. So definitely this is something that we're having into contemplating now, is perhaps to publish a new resource and perhaps even a new PEA in the coming months. So not 100% yet. And then the next point here was to look at all the other targets. These are the targets 2, 3, 4, and 5, but now we've got the names here. And this is exactly the stage that we're at right now. We've got an ongoing drill program. We're testing these targets, and this is the kind of news that we expect to see over the coming months here as these results get assayed and come back to us, and we'll be publishing them. So it'll be very exciting to see if we could find additional pounds, because I think that for Blue Sky is the real value added activity, I think, for right now, is to see if we can to prove to the market that indeed this entire Amarillo Grande area has excellent potential to find additional uranium deposits. So that brings us to the conclusion here. I mean, this is a one-of-a-kind type project. It's not we're not discovering, like I said at the outset, a single deposit. We have an entire district that has potential to have multiple uranium deposits, and to be like some of these big uranium districts that we see in Colorado or in Kazakhstan. The similarities, the geological setting definitely is there. Our value is already underpinned with the deposit that we've already defined. The PEA establishes that yes, we have our uranium here is potentially very viable, and the Blue Sky statement, it's got the potential to rank amongst the largest uranium districts in the world, some of the world's lowest operating costs. It's an exciting phase for the company, and well, I think right now we can open up for questions.
Great job, gentlemen. It is exciting. Talk a little bit about some of the catalysts for the next 6 to 12 months. What are the most important ones coming up?
Well, the first catalyst is the ongoing drilling programs that we've got right now. And as we test these different targets and we get news out, potentially that has the potential to, to find, is there another Ivana, so to speak, out there, another 20 or 30 million pounds that we can discover in the next few months here. I think that's really exciting, because that's potentially the best value-adding opportunity that we have here. And the second thing, of course, is, we're looking at upgrading the resource that we currently have, and perhaps even bundling it into a new updated preliminary economic statement, so that we can show, what the deposit would, what kind of economics it would have in this, $50 plus uranium market, as opposed to the $20 uranium market that we did it just a few years ago.
Talk a little bit about how you see the current situation for the uranium market.
Very bullish for the current uranium market. I think we're seeing a lot of very positive sentiment for acceptance of electricity being generated by nuclear reactors. There are nuclear reactors being built across the world right now, in many countries. Canada's reactivating its nuclear industry. Japan is reactivating again its nuclear industry. Even in the United States, there's all kinds of uranium has been declared a strategic mineral, and nuclear reactors are being extended and new ones are being contemplated to be built. So this is a very positive trend for uranium, and I see this going for a very long term.
And what potential is there for future exploration beyond your current targets?
Well, I'll give that one to our exploration chief here, Guillermo.
Okay, thanks, Nico. Well, as we mentioned, this is an entire district, and we are actually focusing the near surface deposits. But certainly, the geology will tell us more when we drill deeper, and we understand that we have deeper targets for exploration, probably for decades. As if you see Kazakhstan, now a mature district, this exploration took like 30, 40 years until the position that they have now. We did the discovery back in 2006. On the learning curve, we know that the beginning is very low, but now after the discovery of Ivana, we are starting to have more rapidly resolved at the beginning, and this we expect to maintain for the following years.
And Paulo Ortega asks, is the new district in Argentina, are there any majors exploring or producing near that or any of your projects?
No, not today. We are the main exploration company. Many companies were exploring back in 2005 to 2012, 13. But when the price dropped, the exploration basically was suspended. Blue Sky continue, and we have our reward today with Ivana deposit.
And Pete Stanley wants to know if you can give us a timeline to production.
Anywhere, I mean, it's a bit of a pie in the sky, but the 3 to 5 years it would be the approximate. And the neat thing about being in Argentina and it being a nuclear country is that, you know, the regulatory framework is already there. We don't need to wait to have parliament and government debate it and implement it. It's already there. So when the decision is made to go into production, I think then the rules are already laid out and there's a path forward. So that de-risks the project, I think, quite significantly.
Ross R. asks, does Grosso Group manage any other lithium companies, or are they exclusive to Blue Sky?
Is the Grosso Group manages this uranium company. It also manages 2 other companies. Another one is a lithium company, Argentina Lithium, and another copper cobalt company, Golden Arrow Resources.
And Evan Schmidt asks, how much cash do you have on hand and how much will you have to raise in the markets over the next 12 months?
We currently, right now, we completed a raise in the last quarter. So we've got just under a couple $1 million right now. It's sufficient for us to complete our exploration work. And then as we begin to plan going forward a new program, it'll be based on the results of the current work. So then we'll be funding, of course, according to that.
And last question due to time, Dave Kepke asks, how many drills are working the property today? And when do you expect to stage the release of these drill results to the shareholders?
Guillermo?
Okay, as Nico mentioned, we have 4 main targets in a cluster zone close to Ivana. And this is a exploration decision-taking process. So we expect to finish the drilling at the 4 stages to see where we focus most of our efforts. We have some delays after pandemic times, and now we are recuperating that time. But we expect to have the 4 of them drilled in the first quarter, potentially this year, and more deeper exploration done by middle 2023.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much. We have some more questions for you, but we'll send them to you so you can answer on your own time. Appreciate your time with us again today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Okay, stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back.